There are mornings when you wake up with a calm heart, confident about what you've done and what you're doing, and yet a single judgment, a harsh comment, a careless remark can rip that peace apart. Human beings are easily pulled into the whirlpool of praise and blame. We celebrate when we're praised and we feel hurt or angry when we're criticized. But Stoic philosophy reminds us that the serenity of our soul should never be placed in someone else's hands. When criticized, a Stoic doesn't jump into an argument, doesn't react impulsively, and doesn't fall into the victim role. They pause, take a deep breath, and remind themselves, this is outside my control. The only thing I control is how I respond. That isn't indifference, it's the deliberate protection of one's dignity and clarity. A Stoic understands that every criticism, whether fair or unfair, is an opportunity to look in the mirror. If it's true, they thank the person and adjust. If it's false, they smile and let the wind carry it away. They know that an impulsive reaction only harms themselves, while calmness allows wisdom to speak. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his private notes, "If it's true, learn from it. If it's false, ignore it." That line isn't a slogan, it's a compass. It teaches that strength isn't found in avoiding all criticism, but in turning criticism into fuel for inner steadiness. Practically, this begins with stepping back from that first emotional surge. When you hear a judgment, your heart wants to react instantly, to defend, to justify, to attack back. A Stoic notices that reflex but doesn't let it drive the next action. They pause. In that pause, they ask, does this really harm my character? Most of the time, the answer is no. Your honor, your virtue, your inner worth cannot be taken away by someone else's words. Stoicism is not about denying emotions or becoming a stone. You still feel pain, discomfort, irritation, but you train yourself not to let those feelings dictate your actions. It's like steering a boat in heavy seas. You can't make the waves vanish, but you can keep your hands steady on the rudder. Learning to stay calm under criticism not only protects your own mind, but sends a silent message to the world. I hold sovereignty over myself. Moreover, a Stoic realizes that criticism often reflects the critic more than the target. Someone's anger, envy, or insecurity may spill onto you as words. Instead of absorbing that negativity whole, they look through it, the way you look past a cloud to see the sky behind. That doesn't mean ignoring all feedback. On the contrary, they listen humbly, take the useful parts, and leave the poison behind. This shift changes our entire relationship with criticism. It moves us from being reactive to being proactive. Instead of being steered by other people's emotions, we steer ourselves. This takes daily practice. A Stoic writes and reviews their morning notes, or if you're hearing this, imagine you're telling yourself aloud every morning, today I'll meet people who are angry, selfish, ungrateful, but they're only human, and they can't touch my soul unless I allow it. That mental rehearsal is like a shield, not to block life, but to keep your heart open and your mind clear. When criticized, a Stoic also looks for growth inside themselves. They ask, what in me reacted so strongly to that remark? Is that a sign of a weakness I can train? This perspective turns uncomfortable moments into lessons in self-awareness. It transforms criticism from an enemy into a teacher. Each harsh word becomes a brick in the foundation of your inner calm. This is the essence of inner freedom, a freedom no one can take from you. When you stop fearing criticism, you also stop being ruled by praise. You become free. You do what's right because it's right, not because you crave applause or fear boos. This is the state Stoicism aims for. Living by reason and virtue, not by the crowd. Faced with criticism, a Stoic acts calmly, but calm doesn't mean weak. They can speak up when needed, but their words are chosen, springing not from anger, but from wisdom. They know an instant reaction can damage their honor, while patience can reveal the truth. In many cases, silence is the loudest answer, not because they have nothing to say, but because they understand not every battle is worth fighting. A Stoic also recognizes that their own inner voice can be the harshest critic. Negative self-talk, guilt, self-judgment, these can weigh heavier than any outside insult. So they practice kindness toward themselves, refusing to let that inner voice become a tormentor. They treat self-improvement as a journey, not a sentence. This stance makes them resilient to external judgments because they've learned to be an ally, not an enemy, to themselves. In today's world, where social media amplifies every opinion, Stoic spirit is more essential than ever. A single nasty comment can crush someone, but for a trained mind, it's just one signal in a sea of noise. They don't let clicks or letters define them. They act according to their core values, not their momentary reactions. To truly absorb the Stoic attitude toward criticism, we need to go deeper into its principles, examples, and daily exercises. Stoicism isn't just pretty words. It's a way of living. And it's precisely in tense moments, like being criticized, that this philosophy proves its worth. Imagine someone working in a high-pressure environment where every move is scrutinized. One day they're criticized harshly in front of colleagues. The normal reflex is to feel hurt, strike back, or retreat in shame. But if that person has practiced Stoicism, they'll do something different. They'll listen, not to argue, but to understand. They'll let the first wave of emotion pass like a cloud and then decide which part of this feedback can actually help me. Which part is just the other person's mood. That pause, that silent moment, those few deep breaths, is where freedom lives. Seneca once said, "It's not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." The same applies to emotions. We waste our life force on anger and pain over words that don't deserve it. A Stoic treats their attention as precious capital. They don't spend it on anyone who throws stones at them. They invest it in improving themselves and living with virtue. To achieve this composure, they train their mind daily. One classic exercise is premeditation. Each morning, Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, "Today I shall meet people who are selfish, ungrateful, deceitful," not to be pessimistic, but to prepare. When the event came, he wasn't shocked. Criticism wasn't a punch to the gut, but something expected. We can do the same. Each morning, remind yourself aloud, "Today someone may criticize me. That's normal, and I will stay calm." When the words arrive, you're already ready. Another exercise is the dichotomy of control. Epictetus taught that some things are up to us. Our thoughts, actions, attitudes, and some are not. Weather, other people's words, final outcomes. When criticized, a Stoic asks, "Is this within my control?" If not, they let it go. Letting go isn't giving up. It's refusing to let it occupy your mind. They focus instead on what they can change, their conduct, their learning from the situation. We also need humility to see that not all criticism is worthless. A Stoic recognizes they're not perfect. When criticism is valid, they don't resist but accept it as a gift. Even if it stings, they thank the critic, at least in their heart. They see it as an ego test. Can I put growth above pride? This is the art of turning an opponent into a teacher. The story of Cato, a Roman statesman and Stoic, is a living example. He was famous for his integrity and often attacked fiercely in the Senate. But instead of anger, he remained steady, letting his life speak for him. Cato understood that consistent action is louder than any defense. We can do the same. Instead of endless arguments, let time and conduct do the talking. A Stoic also practices empathy. They quietly remind themselves, that person is suffering in some way. That's why they said this. That perspective softens the heart, reduces anger. It doesn't excuse bad behavior, but it keeps you from turning into someone filled with resentment. Understanding others' pain makes it easier to keep your own composure. Of course, none of this happens overnight. It takes continuous training, journaling, self-reflection, practicing silence, reading Stoic works. All of these are like gym sessions for the soul. Each time you're criticized is another rep for your calmness muscle. At first it's heavy. Over time you grow strong. practice long enough and something subtle shifts. You no longer fear criticism, and when you don't fear criticism, you're no longer ruled by praise. You're free to do what you believe is right, even when it's unpopular. This is the state Marcus Aurelius described as living in accordance with nature and reason. You become your own master, not a puppet of public opinion. In the age of social media, this lesson matters even more. A hurtful comment can go viral, but you don't have to play that game. You can choose not to react or to respond calmly. You can choose not to throw fuel on the fire, and you'll witness the miracle. The storm passes and you're still standing. To help you apply this right now, here's a simple Stoic ritual for any criticism. Take 3 deep breaths before answering. Silently remind yourself, this does not define me. Jot down your feelings instead of speaking immediately. Look for the grain of truth in the feedback. Improve what needs improving and ignore the rest. Silently thank the critic as you would thank a workout. Do this repeatedly and your mind will grow lighter. Calmness isn't inborn, it's the fruit of practice. When you become such a person, you inspire others. People will see that you're not emotionless, but in command of your emotions. And your calm presence itself becomes the greatest gift you can give the world. By living this way, you show everyone that there's another path, the Stoic path. Finally, remember, a Stoic isn't a saint. They make mistakes, they feel hurt, but they return to the practice. Each time they stumble, they get back up. What makes them different isn't that they never feel anger, it's that they learn not to let anger shape their actions. And that's something all of us can learn, little by little, day by day. When you're criticized, you have 2 choices. Let those words control you or use them as training for your soul. A Stoic chooses the second. They treat every rebuke as an opportunity to become freer, calmer, wiser. By doing so, they turn the critic into a companion on their path of growth. This is the deep human message behind the title, When Being Criticized, What Does a Stoic Do? We can't avoid every judgment, but we can always choose our response, and that's where true freedom begins.